Alright guys, this is what we're going to make. This is the assembly removed from the drum, the crossbar assembly with the support brackets or the L brackets, the adjustments to adjust it up and down. And again, I may be able to eliminate some of this by having slotted L brackets. I'm going to see if I can find some of those. If not, you can use these. That's what this is for, the way this is done. So you can adjust the height. The whole idea is that once this is done, you're actually going to have about an eighth, you're going to have about 1.5 millimeters setting above the actual bearing edge of the drum. And that's what's actually contacting the head. So about 1.5 millimeters to contact that drum head, to pick up the vibration. So again, what we're going to do is we're going to make the decoupling plate, which is here. We're going to make the crossbar itself. These we're going to get at one of the hardware stores. Same thing with the bolts. And for each one of these assemblies, if we build the beatnik sensor, we're going to need 4 bolts. We're going to need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 flat washers. We're going to need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 8 nuts. We're also going to need 1, 2, 3, 4 rubber washers. If you don't put rubber on the bottom like I did here, you can actually use rubber washers. Again, you just need 4 more. I just used some rubber that I got from the plumbing department at Home Depot and cut it. Figured rubber's rubber. This was cheap. So we're going to cut it, mounted underneath, put a little bit of glue on it so it wouldn't move around, and then put the nuts, the vinyl threaded nuts, which won't come back off. You don't need lock washers with these. And then you'll need 2 smaller rubber washers for the bolts that hold the actual decoupling plate to the compression nuts. And of course the bolts for that. And you're going to get all that typically at a hardware store. These are smaller compression nuts than the one I showed. I'll let you get exact millimeter, but you can see how much different the size is. That was a much smaller size than that one is. So anyway, I'll get the exact sizes for you on these, and actually make a trip out to the hardware store probably tomorrow. So that's the different parts: crossbar, decoupling plate, sensor, L brackets, my bolts, and my nuts. You're going to need a 1/4 inch jack. You can get these at any guitar place, any guitar center, any place that you order them on eBay, you order them online, any place has them. Electronic stores have them. You're going to need a mono if you're just doing a single zone. You'll need a stereo if you're doing a dual zone. So if you're going to do a snare, which the main difference between this and the snare is the snare has another sensor that picks up a cross stick or a rim shot, so that triggers a separate sound. They can be triggered at the exact same time by hitting the head and the edge of the drum at the same time on the actual rim, or you can just hit across the rim for a rim shot or a side stick, depending on what you have the brain programmed to trigger on that sound. Then again, the crossbar itself, all this can be made very easily. Let's start with the actual decoupling plate. The decoupling plate is basically 1/8 of an inch by 2 inch flat aluminum bar that you can buy at Home Depot, Lowe's, fill in your local hardware store here. Again, 1/8 inch thick. It's 2 inches wide, so if I take 2 inches by 2 inches, just draw a square. That's basically what this decoupling plate is. So make yourself a template, use a piece of cardboard, box top, something. And if you'll make yourself a template, you'll have the same consistency every single time. So it'll be the same every single time that you cut it. So what you're going to do is basically cut off about 1/2 inch. So there's 1/2 inch roughly from the tip of that 2 inch square to where my line is here dead center. And what I did on this side was I cut a notch. I cut that notch here so the actual wires for the sensor don't have to go over this sharp edge. It's been down nice and natural, and then I drilled a hole to run them through. So again, it's up inside of the actual crossbar. Use a little bit of hot glue to fill in the hole. A little bit of hot glue here holds it in place. And again, I've not had an issue with these at all. I've not had them come loose. I've not had an issue at all. Very, very sturdy design and construction on these. So again, that's what we're going to use for the actual decoupling plate. Now, the crossbar itself is again 1-inch aluminum channel you can buy at any hardware store, Home Depot, Lowe's. Again, fill in whatever your local hardware store is. It's again about $10 for 8 feet, same as the aluminum plate here. 1 inch by 2 inch is about $10 for 8 feet. So you'll have a lot of material left over. So what I did was I actually cut these at an angle, and I did that to make it a little bit easier to work with this. Make sure you sand those so you don't cut yourself as you're actually working with that. So once you do cut these with either a cut-off wheel or a hacksaw, which is what I cut these with, that you sand those, file them and sand them so that they don't have sharp edges on them. But I did an angle, and it doesn't matter what angle you use. I just happen to do a really sharp angle, give me the most room to work with these nuts. What you want to do is, this was for a 13-inch drum. So if you look, there's the 13-inch shell. You got about approximately 3/8 of an inch maybe on each side for the shell thickness, with the rubber washer or rubber gasket on it rather. I made my crossbar 11 inches, which gave me plenty of room to work with. What I'm going to try and look at is if I can get slotted L brackets. If I can get slotted L brackets, that allows me to loosen this up and slide it back and forth, make it a little bit easier to make sure this is dead center of the head. You want it to be dead center of the head because you get much better triggering that way. And it's not real difficult to do. It's going to be naturally straight across anyway. You just got to find the exact dead center and make sure that this sits pretty much dead center on your head. So anyway, that's what we're going to work on. You're going to need, again, either mono or stereo, depending on if we're doing single or dual zone. So for now, let's just do the toms, and we'll work with the single mono 1/4-inch connection. I had guys actually do the XLR connections. This depends on what you want to do, how sturdy you want it, how fancy you want it. 1/4 inch is easy. Mono stereo cords, most of us have got them. So we'll go from there. I'll start the assembly and cut at these pieces, and we'll get to it right after this.